All right, I was just waiting for you to get your ass seated. Are we all comfortable, gentlemen?
As comfortable as it's going to be in a metal chair.
It is. Okay, so based on the 2 episodes that we've shot, this is now the 3rd episode, number 3. However, it's the 2nd Articulate, with maybe a touch of Barbarian, because you never know with this guy. But tonight we are going to be working with Mr. David Harper, one of the original 3 Barbarians. Good evening, Mr. Harper.
Hello, Alex Soto.
All right, so we have different nuts and bolts and gears that work this machine. Dave is shipping and receiving. He's finance and money and sales, and the voice you hear in the background. Good evening, Mr. Jim.
Good evening.
He's technician, camera, sound. So I guess that just leaves me, which I always say, I'm the hood ornament, I'm the talent, I'm the face, because frankly I don't know how to do anything else. So tonight, like gentlemen, we're going to have a conversation over coffee and cigarettes, because goddammit, we're old school and we're still going to hold it down. However, based on the 2 episodes that we've watched, which are killer, they'll be probably out. Obviously, they'll be out before this one will be out, but they will be coming out soon. I found that the first one we shot, it was probably like 11 o'clock at night, because we had just finished at the Gladiator workout room with Zenith Nevers. And then the second interview after that was the People's Champ, Jesse Shadouse. And gosh, that was at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So between all the other things that were impairing my mind, fatigue too. So I think we're gonna call it so we know what time frame it is. So it is currently, what does that say?
6:41.
That is a 6:41. Okay, because this watch has little arms, all kinds of little arms. 6:41. So 6:41 p.m. Sunday. And it is, what is the date? August something or other. August 27th. So that's where we're at today. So you should catch me with a little more bright eye and a little more bushy tail. So anyhow, like I said, we went ahead and we finished out the workout room session, and that was a jamming session. And now I'm bringing Mr. Harper on because we're going to discuss just wherever the conversation leads, as well as work on podcast etiquette, not talking over each other, etc. So what's going on, Mr. Harper? What's new? What's cracking?
What do you mean what's new, what's cracking? I'm waiting for you.
So this is not acting. This is how it goes. This is my life. It's great though, because it's nice having handlers, because then I jokingly say, but kind of serious, that they're the ones that will pick me up out of the hotel room the next morning when everything's all in shambles, and they're the ones who clean up after me and pay the guy extra to keep his mouth shut. So thank God for the handlers. And you know, who else do you know that has the smallest workout room, probably open mics area, probably within 150 miles. We already have corporate sponsor for that, which we'll be talking about more as the episodes progress. And we have also a finance and a tech wizard in the regime. So it's all good. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Why don't you tell them how this all got started?
Oh, my God. Where do we start? So, my father, as growing up, my father and I didn't get along, or not get along, we didn't see eye to eye in a lot of different things, and one of the things many moons ago that we connected on was talk radio. He's actually so old school, he actually has a high-tech shortwave radio, and he was the one who was listening to the conspiracy guys and stuff way back in the day. And we got turned on locally to a radio station that's all over the internet called WTKS, Real Radio, Talk Radio, specifically the Monsters. Now the Monsters are in the morning, and they're like, you know, one of the top radio shows in that format in probably the world. If not, I know it's at least in the top in the country. But I enjoyed listening to them, and I grew up listening to talk radio as opposed to music, because whenever I was in the car with my dad. Fast forward to the modern day, and I'm at the point in my age and my career that my youngest daughter just graduated and she's off to college, and my oldest is in college, and I just paid off my house, not because I'm rich, but because I'm poor and I never upgraded. And by doing that, I got myself to where I'm healthy, and I've got myself in a pretty good situation. So I said, what can I do I want to try to do something with the last chapters of my life besides work a regular job and collect a regular retirement, and you never know the future of, you hope and pray. But being that I'm in a large retirement community, I've seen people lose their retirements. I've heard the stories of people losing their retirements by putting all their eggs in that basket. So I decided, I was going to try to shake things up. And then one of the things that I found, because of the fact that I live in the Villages, Florida, with the retirement community, is you have a lot of very interesting stories. And my father has an interesting story. And I kind of think that from my age back, most people have interesting stories, but I feel like from my age forward, it seems to me the stories are getting less and less interesting, as far as how somebody, sold a car to come up with the money to start a business, and now they're this big company, So I've met a lot of people that have a lot of interesting stories, so I decided now would be a good time to start talking to those people. And with my love for the talk radio, and also throughout the chapters in my life, which we talk about, I always joke in some of my bits about how there are different chapters. I had Bible chapter, which was about 15 years of my life, and I had self-employed chapter where I owned my own company, and that was a big chapter of my life. So now what chapter are we at forward? So my father has an interesting story, because he was a builder. He built houses in the state of Florida, Florida State general contractor. But because he was the type of person he was, he could never take orders from somebody. So he had the idea of building the house the way it was first and then selling it. Now, that doesn't sound like an unusual concept, but believe it or not, back then it was difficult to do that. So my father built his first house, and he sold it. And as a young man, when he went to go file the paperwork, it turned out that there was a controversy, because you had to be 18 years old to sell a house in America. And that was the big joke, was he had to wait 2 weeks to sell his first property because he was too young. And you don't hear about, and the reason he did that was because he didn't know he couldn't do that. So you don't hardly hear about that anymore these days. So between all of this stuff and me trying to think what I need to do next, and then after that, I have these two crazy guys, Dave and Jim, that I often sit and have coffee with, because at my age, this is how we go to the club. We go and hang out around somebody's house and drink coffee and talk shit. And I was telling them about these ideas I had, and then Dave here starts talking to me about possibly, let's look at seeing where we can go with this, and let's see what we can do with this. And all of a sudden, next thing I know, he's investing some money in things, getting the ball rolling. And then he goes and informs me, and this is where we caught up now, where he'll start talking. He then informs me, oh yeah, I just bet the farm on you. Everything we got's riding on this crazy idea of yours. And there's no pressure there, ladies and gentlemen. So now we fast forward to today, and here I am in a very interesting situation, because now I'm in bed with Dave and Jim. How ironic. So, and here we are today. So now Dave is going to chime in, because I'm going to get a drink because my voice is hoarse.
Well, betting on you was actually a pretty good investment. I definitely know that at our age, neither one of us really saved for anything. Mm-hmm. And in order to make enough money, we have to start our own brand.
That's right. And
if that means we start this on a shoestring budget, so be it.
And what a beautiful shoestring it is.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I've been saying we could second as what did he say? A mortuary, like they could take the picture stuff. Creepy, man. It's amazing. I just wanted to go for a really beautiful effect.
I wouldn't say mortuary or creepy. I would say
it's a nice horror
black couch with a virus sitting on it, hosting movie.
A horror podcast.
Yes.
Where are they now tonight? Boris Karloff and Elvira.
But no, the whole idea, it was very intriguing to me, because I've actually been toying with thinking of doing something of this nature. Anyways, only I never really thought of podcasts. But you're the one who actually got me listening to some podcasts. I'm not a big fan of podcasts.
Right.
I don't usually like the material that they have on there. Joe Rogan's podcast is the most interesting one by far.
My guru. Big love, Big Joe Rogan. If you come into the Southeast, you're my man crush. One day you're going to be sitting right there talking to me. Go ahead.
Because, he could have a scientist on one day and a fighter on the next day. I just don't watch the fighter ones, that's all. So, I like the idea of the interview shows, the podcasts like that.
I'm definitely a fan of the conversation style. I'm not like, we're definitely going to have it where the person who comes on as a guest will be able to give their agenda. But in addition to that, with the facts and the figures, I want also to find out, why is it so personal to you? Why? Because I feel like the personal stuff is better.
You just got to edit that part.
Yeah. We'll edit it out. So, like I said, I just feel like the personal effect of the conversation and the nuggets you get from it, that's the stuff that I'm really interested about with the podcast. There's going to be a lot of people coming on. Some of them are going to be perhaps controversial. Some of them are going to be perhaps not controversial enough, in my opinion, and I'd like to bring that information to light. There are some huge battles that I want to bring awareness to in my personal life that I've faced with in my lifetime. And it's like, shooting a spitball at a meteor. But at the same time, if nobody says anything, nothing can be done. And the power of the podcast that I feel is so interesting to me, and the fact that there's so many out there and they're all doing, it seems to me, they're doing well enough to continue to push forward. And I just think the cream will rise to the top. And if this is something that's almost like, as well as it is for me to get, to see what kind of success comes from it, I feel like because we're going to do it organically, and because we're going to do it, with a genuine interest in the story and the person's, the layers of the onion, so to speak, I think that's what's always going to keep this brand interesting. And like all the rest, like I'm looking at the blueprint that it seems like the West Coast has established, and the Southeast, I feel like they're catching on, and then we put our own little Southern flavor to it, make it our own. But we're going to be promoting, self-promoting, and cross-promoting with other podcasts, with any other person that'd be willing to we can cross-pollinate. And like I said, we're just going to see where this goes, and then continue forward with once we start building our subscribers and our following gets bigger, we'll start doing personal appearances and live podcasts just like they do on the West Coast, as well as promoting our comic, the Articulate Promotions part of the brand, which will be promoting the comedy concerts and the showcases that we're going to be doing. And there's just so many other things, between looking at reopening up the promotions aspect, where we'll start doing the banners and stuff. I mean, we got a lot of things down the road. We got a lot of big decisions to make and a lot of meetings to go through, but it's all for the purpose. And also too, with my kids going off to college and everything, I'm just awestruck by what the potentials and the possibilities are with what people can do. I was watching, this is the date, as he said, on the 27th. Is that what you said? It was the 27th? Yeah. So it's the 27th, so it's the day after the Mayweather-McGregor fight. And the guy who I was rooting for didn't win, or did he?
He didn't.
He didn't win on paper. But I feel like he did, as far as putting respect for their brand, putting respect for MMA, putting respect for the McGregor brand. Because, for somebody who digs the story, the whole story, considering he was like, just an athlete a few years back, a nobody, and look at him now. So, and also, I can't help but argue the fact that in MMA, a knockout, it's a knockout. I felt like they stopped the fight a little early, but that's, whatever. McGregor should have done what he was planning on doing in the first 5 rounds, and because he made it to the 9th round, I mean, the guy is a computer. He is the best in the world, so hats off to Mayweather. But with that being said, I feel like knowing the story and knowing what has been accomplished from both of those athletes, like I said, with what I try to tell my kids, with the future that they have and with the opportunities that they have, take what they're learning in college and follow me and look at me as an inspiration that anything can be done. I already mentioned in the second podcast that I am going to enter America's Got Talent, not because I think I'm the best in the country, but my real agenda is to get my spot on the YouTube channel and to be able to do my solid 5 minutes that I know I do have. I'm going to do it in front of the world like I do every week from Thursday to Sunday, and then actually it'll be Wednesday to Sunday here soon when we open up our new workout room. So got a lot of things popping in that department. So what's going on? You have Old Davy Products.
Old Davy Products, which is really a nothing business right now.
But
that we used to be a business back when I lived in Georgia, but I've revitalized it for our stuff.
Right, and already the nuts and bolts as far as the ordering in,
right,
the getting it shipped out, all that stuff is there. So we'll be using the Old Davy Products line to sell the Articulate Barbarian supplements coming soon. That whole thing will be blowing up on the internet soon, and we'll have everything in place once we have our Tech Barbarian crew. They're all millennials, so it'll take them a little bit longer. We'll have 27 episodes shot, edited, and ready to launch, and they'll be fixing the website. But once it all launches and everything's off the ground, ABS, Articulate Barbarian Supplements, will be selling our own line of Kratom, which there'll be an episode to follow with that you can use as a reference, as well as, which is an all-natural pain remedy. It's an all-natural pain medicine that is used to, for one thing, stop with your aches and pains, but also in addition to that, I was on 4 Percocet 10s a day for 15 years, and I really wanted to get off pharmaceuticals, so that's when I discovered Kratom, Joe Rogan, and Chris and Mark Bell, and shout outs, and then I started doing the research and I bought some, and I've been almost 100 days now with no withdrawals or side effects, and I felt so I believe in the product so much that I bought my own distributorship on it, and now we're going to be carrying it. We'll be selling it online and at our events. I had a comic laughed at me because merchandise, comics always have merchandise that they'll sell at the back table, try to help them with a little gas money, etc. And I've seen some pretty neat merchandise. Shout out to Mike Hurley. Mike Hurley, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. His merchandise is he has a wristwatch and a wallet that sets flame. And I don't mean sets flame like a little beep, but I mean the whole top of the watch sets fire and the whole wallet sets fire. It's a weird prop, like a stage prop, and you just pour a little Zippo fluid into this one little thing, and when it opens, it like sparks the flint. Unique merchandise, because the whole joke is when he's closing his bid out, he's like, and it's almost like prop comedy. So he says, you got the time, and and then he does this thing where it's like whenever you have a cop pull you over, and if you really want to, so then he opens it up, and it lights up. Interesting. But Zenith Nevers, the comedian, thought it was hilarious because I sell Kratom. I sell all natural medication as merchandise at my shows. But it's something that I totally believe in, and I've seen a lot of suffering and a lot of people hurt from the addiction aspect of it. I've seen a lot of people who are just it's an expensive thing if you don't have health insurance, and it's getting more and more difficult with health insurance because of the addictive qualities of it. So the product is a tremendous product, so I bought into it and now I sell it. In addition to that, I also have a libido pill, which we'll be talking about, called Platinum Zen, which all that stuff will be available online with the whole idea of what I'm doing is everything that I sell, I take, and I believe in. So I am the only placebo effect patient that gets to test this stuff for anybody that, and we also have some CBD cream that we're going to be testing, so might be bringing that out here really soon as well. So those are the products on Old Davy Product. And then we also have, do you want to talk about the comic books? Because it'll all be out there, so they'll be able to.
No, well, the comic books will be just back issues of previous books. And,
right. Well, that's another aspect.
Right now, I sell them on eBay.
Yeah, this makes it. This is what makes guests interesting, Mr. Harper. So that like in this genre, there's going to be a lot of people who are into this stuff, cosplay people and stuff, especially the young folks that are the comedians and the young folks that follow with my kids. So you have comic books for sale, and what is what's the eBay website or?
Oh, it's under Harper 8187.
Okay, so Harper 8187 for people who know eBay, you can get on board with that and just check out what he's got. You never know that one issue you're missing.
Well, that's exactly it. You never know.
And you know, this is all part of that coffee talk when you're over there having a conversation. And like just today, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, I have my bitches about certain things, and one of the things is I'm kind of anticipating that Thor where he's wrestling with the Hulk. What is that movie called?
Thor Ragnarok or something.
Yeah, whatever the hell. But anyhow, the thing about that I don't like about the Thor movies,
he's too shiny.
Is he's too shiny.
He's too shiny.
Yeah, he's too shiny. All right, we're gonna have to edit that out. Hold on.
What is that?
It's an alarm clock. I don't know.
Sounds creepy where I am.
It's the loudest thing in here. That's the only reason I use it.
He's too shiny.
It did. It sounded creepy when you're talking about that creepy movie, and then that started up.
Well, the thing
Through the
is too.
headphones. I thought I was the only one hearing it.
So the other thing too is I was listening today to Bert Kreischer. You know my favorite, Bert Kreischer. Shout out Bert Kreischer. You're gonna be out here talking to me one day doing some comedy at one of my workout rooms. But anyhow, he says the best part about the podcast is when somebody knocks on the door or when something wacky happens. So wacky happened. My alarm clock went off in my phone. Like, who has an alarm clock set for 7 at night? But you don't know me.
Back in the day, during the gospel singing days, they called that a hallelujah breakdown.
That was a hallelujah breakdown? All right, hallelujah breakdown it is.
It's staying in there.
Oh, it's definitely staying in there, along with his old heart attack over here where he started coughing up his left lung. All that stuff is good. So, anyhow, I'm not a big fan of the Thor movies because I think his armor is too shiny.
You are not a fan of any current superhero film that has shiny armor or anything. Wonder Woman, absolutely incredible film. You didn't like it because her uniform was too shiny.
I liked the battle scene when if those were Germans, when they were first coming onto the island.
If they were Germans?
That's, because like I said, in their universe, I don't know if they were actually claiming Germany, if they were claiming
World War I Germany.
Okay, well,
oh my God.
Come on, Thor. He said God.
No, Wonder Woman.
Dirt don't stick to God.
Well, the thing about it is when the Wonder Woman Amazonian ladies were jumping down shooting the arrows and their armor had like ruts and dents in it, it's actually, let's take a step back. I'm actually against modern televisions. I'm not so much against the movies, but now the movies are, I think, overhyping the colors. Because the movie, okay, when you say yes, they're gods, this and that, to me, the armor looks plastic. The armor looks plastic and shiny and full of CGI. And I just feel like the older, like rutted up, damaged looking armor, like a battle scene armor, would be just more realistic, even if it wasn't dirty, but if it was new. Like, I know one of my favorite, when you say I don't like anything, like one of my favorite is The Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. I love that series. They don't. I do. But I also love that, even when they had brand new armor, it looked like real armor. But now I'm going to say that from the transition from Lord of the Rings to The Hobbit, the CGI and the colors got better. So to me, it again diminished the movie because to me, the new TVs make everything look like, in my eyes, what soap operas used to look like when I was coming up. Like the sets are small. Like to me, those new TVs are so colorful that your eyes can't see it. So it's whatever it sees, it's too pretty. It's too perfect. And I don't know, maybe it's just Pop's eyes. Maybe I'm just silly that way. I don't know.
I can't believe you'd even say that with the amount of crying you did about these curtains.
Yeah, but look at the curtains.
Well, yeah. It's so perfect, so perfect, so
here's
wonderful.
The thing: if the curtains were from Thor, they would be the really shiny plastic curtains, and they would be sitting there, and we would not make mention to them because these are Thor curtains, so they're plastic and hard edged and shiny. That's the part. Like this, to me, looks classy and authentic. Maybe that's the thing. It looks less authentic because it's so shiny and so pretty that, I don't know.
Well, first of all, I'm not taking you into any more superhero movies. I'm not doing it.
And you know what?
Hating on them.
I thought the movie was good. I didn't like the fact that the guy from Star Trek died at the end of the movie. And that's another weird thing about me. I'd prefer if everyone stayed alive at the end. Like Lord of the Rings, only the one guy got killed. And he was the turncoat, so technically he deserved it. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. I just like the one big series, the book series that I always talk about. At the end, some really critical, crucial players died. Harry Potter, at the end, some really critical, crucial players died. Characters that you fall in love with. That's just the kind of thing I guess you.
And why do you like Game of Thrones?
But that's the thing. Game of Thrones is a hard pill to swallow. Game of Thrones, especially in the beginning. I actually stopped reading the book before Game of Thrones was a movie, way back in the day.
Oh, you read it before?
I started it as soon as they killed the dude from the north. As soon as that guy was beheaded, and it was so fast the way it happened, which in all honesty I respected, because that's as real as it gets. It's not usually like in a big glorious scene, but oh my gosh, and then the Red Wedding, I only saw that. I didn't even make it all the way to that. But as soon as I saw the Red Wedding on film, I was like, whoo, that's a hard movie to watch. But unfortunately, it's the best thing on television because it's so beautifully done, and B, what else is there on television right now? I mean, what is there anything on television? First of all, I don't watch television, so the only way I'd see it is if it was big enough that I could watch it. Like, Game of Thrones was so big, I watched it. And I found ways to watch it. But I wasn't a big fan of the one where the dude was cooking meth in the RV. I didn't like that one.
I didn't get
Was that Breaking Bad?
Yeah.
I started watching the motorcycle one, and it was cool until like the one guy got murdered for no reason. I just thought, it's starting to get a little, season 3 of Weeds was kind of shaky for me. That's an old one, but that just shows you, like, once things start. Spartacus, you want to go old school. One of the best shows that I've seen in a long time was Spartacus. Season 1, Season 2, Season 3, they tried to switch Spartacus out. There's another thing I don't like. Don't change Spartacus out, okay? Roseanne, they switched the daughters. I can't watch it anymore. There's a different human being there, and they don't even they pretend, and then she doesn't even look like her. I think it was actually like Roseanne's real daughter, wasn't it, the second go around? No? But anyhow, the point is, couldn't you at least get her to look kind of like, remember that one from back in the day, was it Bewitched? Both husbands looked the same. No,
they didn't.
Was it Bewitched or was it the genie?
No, it was Bewitched.
They looked very similar.
No, they didn't.
They looked more similar than the two daughters.
Dick York he was a shorter guy, fuller figured, stockier. Dick Sargent, tall, skinny, gay.
Oh, see, that's there. You get to me. I probably only saw like a headshot side by side.
Well, in my mind, I don't even know how you could even figure that one out.
It was probably another podcast that I saw. You can actually look it up online.
The thing is, like the daughter from Roseanne, she went to college.
In real life?
Yes, that's what she didn't. There was no malice when she left. She went to school, and they brought in this other actress. And then when she was done, she came back and took back over. And then it was a joke because the other one would show up every once in a while and say, "Hey, I'm home," and they're like, "Who are you?" and slam the door on her and stuff like that.
Well,
so it was just fun, and you were putting way too much into Roseanne's half-hour.
You just can't change the characters. I just feel like you can't change the characters.
And the guy from Spartacus, I forget. I read the controversy why he left.
I'm sure it was money.
It might have been money. It might have been.
And also, season 3, the story was getting hokey.
See, that's the thing that I read. That they people were blaming the actor, but it was the writing that did that.
The storyline got hokey. Now they were being chased by, Rome. But the first 2 seasons was good. The second season was good because it was a prequel, so they didn't have to continue the story.
Right.
But it was a really good. That was back in the day, though. Does Stars even exist anymore? It's like an HBO channel. But
yes.
that's who brought out that show. That was a very good show. That's a definite. If you haven't seen it, Netflix. That's a good binger to watch. And Hell on Wheels is a good bit. See, that to me is that's a good show. Hell on Wheels. You haven't seen it, but it's about the railroad and building the railroad and the stuff that's going on the inner with the blacks and the South and the North. The Civil War's over, so everybody now has to kiss and make up and get along. And how a lot of them ended up on the railroad because after the Civil War ended, the railroad coming across America was the next big American project. So you had a lot of people that switched.
I'm not apologizing.
No, you don't have to. So that's a good program to watch as far as a binge watching program. But there's just not a lot of really exciting television out there. There's not a lot of exciting. In fact,
not a lot of exciting television on the three or four major networks. I mean, we're on our last episode of Defenders. Absolutely incredible show.
And what is that on?
That's a Netflix series.
It's Netflix original.
And it's Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Iron Fist, and it is a good show. I liked all four of the series, and then they joined them all into this to make the Defenders, and it is very good.
I also I really like Jessica Jones. That was a good one. And again, though, that's like, to me, I call that, though, the new regime. The pick and choose what you want when you want. I was on the television the other day, and I'm like, commercials. And I was on the radio the other day, and I'm like, commercials. And I mean, now that they have like even all these talk radio stations, my morning show, that the Monsters, end at 10 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock in the morning, and by 3 p.m. it's set up for the podcast with no commercials. I mean, that's I just can't imagine. We sit around and joke about what does the future hold with all these buildings. I mean, the way you buy stuff online, the way we bought all this, with the exception of the stage. It's funny. Voice one, that when I'm watching the podcast, the brick walls.
Yeah.
They're brick walls like this. Bert Kreischer had to get from his chair around to get out to go use the restroom, and Joey Diaz has to slide his chair up and around so that he can get around him. That's how small the space is that they're in, and Joe Rogan's stage has the brick walls. So it's so funny when you see it now that we've done the Hollywood magic. That what you can do with, and I'm telling you, man, another thing that I think is cool is like, this is a secret location. We are in the depths of some kind of secret fancy place because nobody knows where these podcasts are being shot out of. I believe, and I don't know, but I think the podcast studios that all those guys out west use are storage containers.
Possibly.
The way they're laid out. I mean, think about it. Shout out to my shows. Big Brown Breakdown, Fighter and the Kid, Joey Diaz, The Church of What's Happening Now, and Joe Rogan, the JRE. Now, JRE has a real room, and they're getting ready to move into this new thing, so I can't wait to see that. But back that off. But those two guys, I mean, when you see the camera angles and stuff, those rooms are tight. The two chairs on the right side, when you watch The Fighter and the Kid, when they've changed the camera angle, it's wall to wall on each side of those chairs. So, I mean, if that's something that, again, the business end of me starts to think, we could get those storage units cheap and build stages for people and send them right up to their house. So they have a storage unit in the backyard, and inside it's set up to be a podcast universe. So anyhow, but yeah, that's just, like I said, I got all those. I just watch the blueprints, I see the numbers, and I feel like as many people as there are doing it, it wouldn't hurt to bring our own personality into it, our own perspective. It's just a different thing altogether. When you think about even the story, which I use in my bit all the time, the story of this town, that this was a small country-ass town, and because of the land and the pricing of land, a giant retirement community came and built this humongous retirement community right in our backyard. And then we ended up with 1 million addresses of people that are retired that on average make between 80 and 100,000 a year. So now we have all these little, I think it's like 5 counties now that are affected by it. And you have all these little small country ass towns that were so separated. Like, we would never go to Claremont, or we would never go to Leesburg. We would always stay right here. And if we went north, we would go to the big city of Ocala, Florida. I mean, that just shows you the area, the general area. But now, whoa, we're highfalutin. Not only are we highfalutin, but we're pulling off things out here that nobody is able to do in this state. Like, we have now a poker room, and we have gambling, we have drinking on the streets, all stuff that caters to entertainment and caters to the social life. It's ironic or funny or both that people who don't know anything about the Villages, Florida, just pictures it like a bunch of shuffleboards and a bunch of old people with dentures. But, you know, the new old is the new young. I mean, old people now, they got skydiving teams and professional athletes, and, you know, and so my whole argument is it's funny that people will drive all over the state to these bigger cities to quote unquote do comedy and work their craft, and then they're discovering that there are these little pockets. Shout out to Wesley Chapel, and shout out to all these communities that are Beverly Hills out south of Crystal River, these areas that have a good foundation, great boutique stores, bourgeois surroundings, and they got money, folks. So I mean, it's like here now all of a sudden what I'm seeing is people driving from Tampa and Gainesville and Orlando to come work out in my room because they want to be able to bring their material to a more to an older and more mature crowd. And so here I am going, wow, look at all this, and nobody's really pushing that agenda out here.
That's why I'm really looking forward to when we get this thing rolling, is getting some people in the Villages who used to work at Old Time Radio.
Oh, Dave's doing a shout out. Do you know his name? What's his name? Go ahead.
If I remember correctly, it's David Henry, but it's Hank's Old Time Radio channel. I'm not even sure what the platform is. It's on the computer, or it's on the stereo.
Okay, so
at home.
this is how it works. Hank's Old Time Radio channel, if you don't hear from us directly via email or instant message, direct message, we had that conversation with Jesse Shadoos. He was breaking it down for old Pop, but whatever. However we get the hell away, however we get the hell to you. If we don't get to you this way, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. We're doing a shout-out to the universe as these podcasts go up. If somebody knows somebody knows somebody, this man wants to talk to Hank's Old Time Radio show, and I'm looking forward to having him in here, too. Now, we have different stage formats, so when we have more than two guests, we'll bring in the couch, which right now it's very elegant on stage, but we're going to need to upgrade it. Because
and I would love to find some people who maybe even acted back in those days.
Absolutely. Well, not to mention, like, there's an old jazz band that I want to get in contact with here in the Villages, and I don't want to say their name wrong, but it's something like the Dapper Gentlemen's Club or something, and they're a community leader in the Villages, and I just think that maybe I should be a young honorary member of their group, because I saw they were giving scholarships. My daughter received a scholarship from what were they? Anyway, I think it's like the Dapper Gentlemen's Club or something, but they are definitely gentlemen who know how to dress, so shout out to them. If I said your name wrong, I won't say it again. The next time I come on, it'll be just right, but we're going to have them on for sure, because they're just trying to bring a little sophistication to stuff. I feel that. So they're definitely going to be, as well as the jazz bands, and then Hank's Old Time Radio. Man, there's just so many. There's a character that runs around here named Tony, and I'm going to have him on, and he's just a local lunchbox hero in these parts. And last time I saw him, he was in the kitchen of an Italian restaurant that I frequent, and he is not a member of this restaurant in any way except he eats there. So he was just hanging out in the kitchen. He's one of those personalities, and he used to own Italian restaurants, and he's real, a Southern Italian, just boisterous and fun to be around. So I'm looking forward to having him on the show. There's a lot of things coming. There's a gentleman that looks like Jack LaLanne. He's in his 70s, and he's incredibly well fit. He's a personal trainer in the area. I'm going to be having him on soon. So things are popping, man. Things are popping. So what do you think, man? I say we've probably been on for almost an hour. Voice, how long have we been on?
What time is it?
It's only 7:18.
What time did we start?
We haven't even been on. Just at a half hour.
Perfect. No problem. I just didn't want. I want to make sure we weren't going to run too long. So, what else we got going on?
The crowd. The thing about that, it helps me in my back. Mm-hmm. It helps Jim in his back and shoulders. My mother, who has really bad arthritis, it helps her in her arms and her shoulders. But it doesn't help with my one foot that has the blockage in it. Mm-hmm. So there are things that it's limited, but I mean the best thing to do is just try it. The best thing to do is try it, because
and comparatively speaking, we sell 100 kratom pills for $50, and we sell a sample pack And is the sample pack $10?
Yes.
Sample pack's $10, and it'll be available to be ordered online. It'll be direct shipped to you, and you give it a shot. It is literally an herb. It is like a ground up, like a coffee leaf, but it's the kratom plant. It's based out of Thailand in that general area, and it's actually illegal in Thailand because people were taking it and getting off of heroin, because it has these great qualities that will ease the withdrawal pains as well as treat the pain. People use it to get off alcohol. People use it because they're in pain and they don't want to be. See, the problem that I was having with the pharmaceutical is when we all started getting on medication, we would just take whatever the doctor gave us. And at that time, they are programming those pills to have qualities in it that your body, the opioid sensors in your body, start to crave, because your body goes into withdrawals, because the pain sensors. It doesn't matter what your pain is. In addition to treating the pain, it wants the opioids to numb those sensors. So your body becomes addicted to that. And then what happens too, that's a short-term problem. And then long-term, now that fast forward 15 years and technology's gotten better and information is tremendously better to get information, it is that it's a huge, it aggravates and accentuates autism Alzheimer's later on in life. And there's already Alzheimer's all in my family. So I don't want to be a burden to my kids. I don't want to be a burden to whatever woman decides to put up with me. And I don't want to be a burden to society. And I would like to enjoy as much of my life that is remaining at this time of my life that I'm healthy. Looking forward, I would like to try to plot out a course in my life that I want to do, that I'll be at peace and happy doing. Talking to people, interviewing people, bringing people's agendas to light. Archiving the message to the universe. That's another thing we're going to be bringing out, where people are going, at the end of the show, I'm going to have guests just say something to the universe. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this is going online, and God willing, as long as the online stays on forever, people will be able to archive this stuff, and then great grandkids 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, people will be able to look back onto this podcast and see the archive, see the message to the universe. So that'll be something we'll all be as we get organized and you're a guest on my show, I will email you basically the outline of how I normally do it, with a whole lot of, like, it's like we try to go from point A to point B, and then point B all the way down to D, and then in between we're going to be chasing squirrels and rabbits. So it's like, we're going to try to get as much of the agenda out as possible, whatever is most important to the guests, but at the same time we're going to talk about your favorite sports. We're going to talk about things that you enjoy doing outside of work. An interesting thing was brought up, again, with my love for podcasts, and Bert Kreischer was on a podcast. It was actually his podcast, and he was saying that his therapist, his wife, people he knows, they all tell him that he needs a hobby. And he's like, well, I have 2 television shows on Travel Channel. I do exciting things. I love stand-up comedy. I shoot my podcast. I edit my videos. I do my social media. They're like, yeah, but all that's work. You need to have a hobby. Well, I've never had a hobby. Like, I've tried hobbies. Like, I've tried golf. I don't like golf. I like shooting clays, but if I'm going to shoot clays, I'd rather bring a camera out and shoot it and have fun watching us bumble around. I don't know that I can have a hobby. Do you have any hobbies that don't eventually make money for you?
Not really.
Yeah, neither do I.
The thing is, people don't understand hobbies. It's what a person enjoys. Mm-hmm. It's what a person enjoys. I mean, I was watching an episode of Family Guy where they were telling the old man, Carter Pewterschmidt, you need to slow down, you need to relax, have a good time, you're an older fella. And the whole show ended up being, this is what I like to do. I like to go to my office and make money.
Right.
And, whatever you like to do, that's your hobby.
Right.
And if you can happen to make money, Rush Limbaugh, big person, if you can make money at what you love to do, you're one of the luckiest people alive.
Right.
He himself makes a lot of money doing exactly what he likes, talking politics.
Let me tell you something, though. I made this comment because you listen to that Republican conservative radio, and I'm actually depending on who you ask, because I've never actually thought about it. I always assumed I was a Republican because during the Bible chapter of my life, that's kind of what I thought I was. And then the best I could be given on the right wing would be middle of the road. And then a lot of Democrats feel like I'm very left wing. However, I'll be frank with you. And again, I will say this a million more times. I was raised on the Song of the South style of politics, where it said most folks said that Wall Street fell, but we were so broke that we couldn't tell. I'm not going to sit here and say that I've ever been like poor, but I am going to say I've been upper lower income for most of my life. The difference is how you choose to live your life, and I am not in any way sitting here going to counsel you about how you should spend your money, make your money, save your money, because I am the worst, because I will spend some money. I mean, look at the way I dress. There's no reason to dress like this, but I do. So, I mean, look at that globe, huh? It's ridiculous. But the thing is, but at the same time, if you have your baseline down low, the little extravagances you don't have to kill yourself to do. So that's always been my politics on it. But honestly, when it comes to Rush Limbaugh, I was just in the van. We were hauling something for the podcast the other day, and I'm sitting there listening to the Rush Limbaugh show. And I think the last time I heard Rush Limbaugh was like 3 or 4 years ago, and it sounded exactly the same. So all I'm saying is if that's what people want, then that's great. I mean, obviously, he's not hurting for his fan base. But Jesus, man, can't you like add a little bit of music or make it a little more fun, a little more entertaining? But that's just me as a young whippersnapper who doesn't get that old time, that conservative talk radio. I mean, all my favorite radio shows are usually comical and they sprinkle in serious. And then when they bring in a lot of serious, you're so used to the comical. What? I like to be entertained while I'm being told the story.
Yes. You were the baby that was happy with the keys being flashed in front of you. Look at this baby. Look at keys. Oh, keys.
I like the shiny.
There's substance to everything.
There's a ton of substance.
And granted, Rush has some of that comedy stuff mixed in there once in a while. But you're right. A lot of times, I mean, if you haven't listened to him in 5 years and tune into him, you're going to pretty much hear the same thing. But every once in a while, he gets into this kick of, he gets on and he does almost 3 hours of, he explains why America is so great. What made America great, which is the people. And the people's self-reliance. I'm going to do this to help me and my family and God, and I'll even help you. Mm-hmm. But don't think you're going to come over and expect me to help you.
Right. Which that's the part of me that gets my dander.
He has very inspirational talks. Yes, I mean, that's my biggest problem with most of the conservative talk shows. When Terry Schiavo and I agreed with what they were all saying. You know, she's not really in a coma. She is awake, as I saw the video where she's responding to things. So she wasn't in a coma. And they let her starve to death. Well, I had to stop listening to Glenn Beck because that was every day the same. That's why I don't listen to Sean Hannity that much, because his thing is almost, it's like a script that he writes one day and he uses it for 4 months.
Right.
And it's like, good God, let it go. So you can listen to about it every 4 months.
So there you go. So check in on Rush every 4 months. And is that about when he brings out that speech? He dusts off that patriotic, motivational
about 3 or 4
stuff
times a year. That it's very, very inspirational.
Right. Well, like
and he talks about how the America that he grew up with,
right,
compared to what we've become today, which is we have America of millennials.
Right. Well, and you know what though? Like I said, I told you the other day, I saw that there's a great clip on Simon Sinek. Big shout out to Simon Sinek. He's a great speaker, motivational guy. I eat up his stuff like Tic Tacs, but he has this really great thing on the millennials, and that everything that you see that's wrong today is our fault. And even my daughters, who are straight savages, they lived a very sheltered and protected life their whole life. I mean, we definitely had bumpers on them from the time they were babies to the time, we protected them from anything and everything that we could. And the other side of the coin now is you have a very pressure pot world that's even more pressured because computers have figured out how to draw blood from rocks. So now the bottom line, and the young millennial doesn't have the endurance or the understanding, in my opinion, that you're going to have to grind. Most people grind 30 years of their life from the time they're 18 for 38 years. Even if they're college educated, even if they're doctors and lawyers, they're grinding 100 hours a week. And I grew up from a generation where it was, you only worked a half a day, first half or second half, you choose. And you always had multiple jobs. Why? Because you always had multiple levels of income coming in at the same time. If you wanted to have a vacation, you didn't put it on a credit card and pay it off. Well, actually, my generation did. The generation I was raised in, the immigrant home, we would raise, like, any money you brought in off of a secondary income, you would save it, and at the end of 1 year, you would use it to buy one thing, or if it was to go on a trip or whatever. So, I mean, that was the kind of ideas, and I think that definitely, I joke say that my parents bred geniuses, although my genius is the curse and the blessing, because it's like, I jokingly say, like, my sister, who will be on the show soon, and then the first question out of everyone's mouth my whole life is, what happened to you? There's a hero in the family, and she'll be coming on board soon to interview, and she'll giggle at me most of the time because she's like, I can't believe this looks so pretty and this silly. But anyhow, but that's my sister. And my sister, from minute one, I say it in one of my bits in one of my jokes, that my sister should have been the oldest son and I should have been the daughter, because I ended up raising two daughters by myself, and she's like the corporate CEO big shot, and her value is set very high. Everybody should know their value or try to figure out their value, and then you add half again more value on top. Even if you don't feel at first like that's what you deserve, it's what you seek. Well, my sister went ahead and took that way to an extreme. And me, I took the same process, but I said my value is worth very high, but I don't want to build the elephant so big it costs so much money a month to feed. I want my baseline to be debt-free or damn near debt-free, so that I can work off of very little and then build everything on top of that. And right now, this is the day and age that we can build on top of that. We can definitely build a lot of things now, especially with this new technology, with the way that, I've got people that are in the music business that are doing big things with no labels. I got people that are doing big things all around me that are just everyday kids grinding it out online. But so like I said, this is where we're going with that. There we go, chasing squirrels. I'm not sure where we started this conversation, but this is where we ended up. How much of that outdoor noise do you hear in your headphones? Because in the other shows, like today, watching the Joe Diaz show and the Church of What's Happening Now, it's a couple, I think it was last week's episode, and you could hear like fire trucks going by. I actually listen for that. When it rains real hard in JRE, you can hear it. It sounds like sizzling bacon in the background. So, Dave, tell us a story. I'm going to go reload some coffee. You want some more coffee?
Tell us a story.
Yeah, tell it whatever's on your mind while I go reload some coffee. This is another part of learning. We got to do dead air time.
Back in my early 30s, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh, man.
Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is to tell you people, if you ever have the opportunity or was ever asked to test for bone marrow, if you could see if you could be a donor for bone marrow, do it. It's not that bad. I've been tested. My bone marrow was tested 3 different times. The worst it felt was like you fell down on your butt, and it feels that way for like 4 days, and then it's over. They ended up using my own bone marrow for me, but my brothers all were tested. And it didn't really affect them that much, because like they were all terrified. Oh my God, it's going to hurt so bad. But it really doesn't hurt, and it could save a life. I mean, even if you just go to the hospital and say, I want to donate bone marrow, because they'll save that and try to match it with somebody that might need it. It does work, and it does save lives.
Interesting. Almost.
How's that coffee?
Coming along, getting loaded here.
swallow.
Yes, I know. Oh my goodness. Thank you.
I just clunked it on top.
Thank you. What are you doing after this, by the way? Do you have any plans for the night? Good.
Dinner at Dave's?
No. Well, yeah, that could happen too. That could happen. But no. As soon as this is over and we get things packed up, we will take a road trip down to the comic book store.
Okay.
So you can meet the two young fellas.
What time are they open till?
It's supposed to be midnight.
Oh, very good. Okay.
And
so we're gonna do a vlog.
yeah, well,
Isn't that what this is? A vlog when we take the camera somewhere
we're not
else?
taking the camera someplace else.
We're not?
We're just going down to visit them, and you could see the steampunk sculptures that they have in there.
Okay.
So that you can get the name of the artist, or talk with them. You can talk to them because you're a big steampunk fan, and we might be able to get it on here.
Yeah,
with some of her
oh
samples.
yeah, shout out to steampunk. I'm loving some steampunk. Somehow I need to find a steampunk designer that can incorporate steampunk into my period clothes so that we can have, because I can't be walking around with cyborg shit all over me, but I can walk around with, like, if there's some elegant stuff on a hat, trimmed out, maybe a nice leather jacket that's
and if we go down there and talk to them, you should be able to.
And you're telling me that in this little spot there's steampunk people, or the people stuff is there and we'll talk to the people to get the number?
There you go. That's
Okay,
the one.
very good.
That's the one. As of right now, she sells stuff online, and the only place in public she sells it is at that store.
Okay, so I've discovered something else with the way that we have to set it up. Apparently, when I turn off the noisy thing over there, I guess it turns off the coffee pot too, because the red light's on as far as on the thing, but it's cold. So I guess, let's see, that should put us at almost an hour. So since I'm gonna have to stomach this cold coffee, let's go ahead and wrap this up, and then we'll go see your steampunk people, or the owners.
The owners.
All right, well, Universe, we're going to wrap this up, and that means we have to sit quietly for 10 seconds until the voice waves at me. So here we go. Love, peace, chicken grease. We out. We out here.